Hello, this is Andy, and I wanted to give you a short video about replacing the rear struts on a Gen 2 Prius. This happens to be a 2005, so this should be 2004 through 2009. So this is the second time I've done this. The first time it took me a couple hours, and I wasted a lot of time. So let me give you some tips. This so far has gone so well. First thing is jack it up in the center. So if you possibly got a floor jack, do it in the center. If you look at what the manual says, it says to support that cross beam with the block of wood and jack it there. Use the little center stand or that center mounting point or jacking point on the vehicle. And what's nice about this is that it makes it much easier to remove the struts. The other thing too is you can leave the tires on. In fact, it's much easier to do with the tires on. So I jacked it from the center, and then I left the tires on, and originally I didn't have the wood under there. Now you'll notice there's 2 points where the struts attach, and before I did anything, the previous night I went ahead, let me get my focus back in gear here, and I put some penetrating oil on those, and just to make sure I could get them off the next day. So let's take a look at the struts for a second and how they're mounted. So I've got the 2 struts removed. And so again, right here on this nut, did I show you that? On this nut, my focus is pretty bad on this camera. Make sure that, before you even start the process, go ahead and put some penetrating oil on that. And then what I did is, when I started the process, I jacked up the car, and I just made sure I could loosen that. And you're going to probably need a breaker bar to do it. It's on pretty tight. Then from underneath, the strut is mounted with 2 nuts and a bolt. So on the top, there are 2 nuts that go through the top, and then underneath is a bolt. And from underneath the car, see if you can get that bolt off, or at least loosen it. Again, if you cannot loosen this bolt, you won't get the strut off. And this is one of the other things that's hard to do. So depending upon if your coil is cracked or something, you might have an issue doing that. I believe it's 14 millimeter. So before you do anything else, any work of pulling the car apart, go ahead, loosen this nut and loosen that bolt just to make sure you can loosen it, and do that on both sides. You'll save yourself all kinds of grief. This might be the 2 steps that might be the most difficult. Okay, let's look at what you need to do in the car. And again, you can get these 2 nuts off inside without taking out the rear seats and without taking off the cover for the hybrid battery. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so now that you know you can get those nuts loose, you're going to have to take some other things apart. So you're going to have to take off the trim, and all of these snap off. There's just a couple tricks. But what I wanted to point out is that you do not need to take off this battery cover. And in fact, over here, you don't even need to take off the bolts for these plates. I did it because I thought I was going to, and it turns out I don't need to. So there are other videos that'll show you how to take off these side panels. But you do not have to take off my focus. Let's see if it'll come in there. You do not have. The other issue is there is that plastic duct that goes to the fan that goes to cool the hybrid battery. And again, that's going to be in the way for the passenger strut. You can pull this out, and you pull it off by grabbing the tip, the part that goes here. You can pull that part out. It takes a little work, and then you can put it off. When you put it back on, just the opposite. Stick it in the hybrid battery part, and then come back and stick it in there. So anyway, with all of that off, and on the inside there are 2 bolts you will have to take out. There's going to be one right down here at the bottom. You do not have to take the seat out. One on the other side. With that, you can access everything you need to get the strut nuts on top. They're straight down here. Again, mine are removed so you don't really see them. You can take them out with a socket wrench, and then I just use a little pickup magnet to pick them up so you don't lose them. Do it on both sides. And then finally, leave the wheels on. And the beauty, I'm going to have my daughter hold this for a second, and the beauty of leaving the wheels on is then with it jacked up like this, you can raise and lower the tires. And I just put these blocks of wood here, or else it's going to hang down all the way as I'm waiting for my coils. So I'll probably take off at least one block, and it'll make it easier to put the struts back in. Doing it this way saved me about 2 hours versus the last time I did it with taking the tires off, following the book manual and taking out the seats. Good luck. See you online.